Reporting district, division plus master beat.
Okay, actually I started out as a drummer. I went from that to playing a little bass guitar. From there I started doing independent promotions as far as radio, retail, club, street promotions, working for Sony, Universal, Tommy Boy, Atlantic, Death Row, a bunch of labels in the Virginia, DC, Baltimore market. From there I got an opportunity to go to Rough House Columbia Records, where I did national radio promotions, so I promoted Crisscross, the Fugees, Cypress Hill. From there I wrote a book on artist management called 10 Steps to Successfully Managing Recording Artists. I started actually managing songwriters and producers, some of which whose credits include Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Nivea, Charlie Wilson, etc. I got an opportunity to move to Atlanta to run the Atlanta CSAC office. I was there as the Senior Director of Writer and Publisher Relations for just about 7 years. From there I got an opportunity to go to work with Dr. Creflo Dollar and Pastor Taffy Dollar to run their label Arrow Records, where I signed gospel greats Ann Nesby and Kim Burrell. I also have a book coming out next year called My Music, My Business. From Arrow, got an opportunity to launch a new label under the Universal Music Group system called My Trail Records, and so that's what I'm doing currently. I'm also a professor at the SAE Institute, where I teach all of the music business modules. So I'm at the Sound Audio Engineer Institute, and I teach copyrights, publishing, etc. I think it's interesting. You'll find that seemingly, like if you see a band, the guy with the good credit or with everything maintained appropriately is always the drummer. So it's weird. So if you find a band and the band needs to get credit or needs to buy equipment or something like that, and one of the persons has to co-sign, it's always going to be the drummer. So I think, interestingly, the drummer, or being the drummer, just sort of keeping time and that whole thing, it just may be a natural progression. And so I probably honestly wasn't as talented as a musician as I would have liked to have been, so I had to find a way to still stay in the business, and so I jumped on the coattails of great artists. So that's probably what really happened. Every executive, I think, deep down inside, we want to be artists. So.
Right now.
Well, I mentioned my book, 10 Steps to Successfully Managing Recording Artists, and literally, honestly, when I wrote that book, I was being selfish. I thought that I would get the accolades from writing the book. I wanted Fox 5 News to call me up. I wanted Billboard magazine to place me, in the magazine. And actually, what I learned from writing the book was humility. Everything that I thought I wanted, when it actually started to happen, I really didn't want it. So I thought Fox 5 News would call me up and I'd be there like, yeah, I'm Cappriccieo Scates and this is what I think and blah, blah, blah. And actually, when Fox 5 News did invite me on, they said in 10 and in 5. And I'm like, yo, this is live? It's 1 million viewers. Like, yeah. And so if you ever see that interview, inside I'm going, but you can't tell I'm being very, poised and composed. But man, I could not believe how intimidating that was. And so Billboard magazine, they called me up, and if you ever see that article, I'm talking about all the things that I want to do in the community and how I want to educate the future of music, etc. The only way you live forever is by touching the future, and so to have the opportunity to touch the future gives you that opportunity to live forever. But with that being said, the keys to success, in my opinion, are consistency and humility. So humility is a very important part of success. And so the thing that I learned actually from writing the book was that it had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with the gift that I was given to willingly give back to others. And so people would read the book, all the wonderful, great things about me, it's all in there. I put it all in there. And I would go to people and I say, hey, tell me what you think about the book. And they say, oh man, thank you. I'm like, what? Yeah, thank you, man. The way you said such and such, I really appreciated that. And I'm like, what does this have to do with you? And so each person I would ask, they always kept coming back saying thank you. And so what I figured out was that it had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with the gift that I was willingly given or willingly given to other people. And so the gift that I was given to willingly give to other people. And so the thing that I've learned, once I decided to change my perspective and I became humble in my approach, everything that I was trying to get started to then come to me. Because keep in mind, your floor is someone else's ceiling. So where you are, someone's trying to get to. And so right now I'm standing on someone's ceiling, but then an L.A. Reid or a Clive Davis or a Lucien Grange or a Doug Morris is on my ceiling. So there's levels. Well, to your point, the music business boils down to two things. No matter what you do, whether you're an attorney, a manager, writer, artist, you play bass guitar, play kazoo, doesn't matter. It's going to boil down to two things, and those two things are copyrights and masters. Now, some people would say four things because they would include contacts and having great songs. So I would agree with those perspectives as well. But really, when we talk about making money in the music industry, it really boils down to two things, and those two things are copyrights and masters. Who owns the copyright? Who controls the master? Who controls the master? Who owns the copyright? Period. That's the entire music industry. And so the reason for that is there are revenue streams that are directly linked to copyrights and masters. So the label is going to want to own the master. The publisher is going to want to participate in the copyright ownership. And the reason being is because that's where the money is. And so when you look at the revenue streams, for example, one, there's generally about 7 areas. There are more. I read an article that said there's 900,000 ways to monetize a song. But specifically, the areas that you're going to see most often than not are going to generally be about 7 areas. And so that's performance royalties. Every time your song is being played on the radio, restaurants, hotels, elevators, wherever music is being played publicly or performed live, is generating a royalty. And that royalty payment is being paid by a company called ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC. And also sound exchange. So we're talking about performance royalties. So again, that's a very important area, especially for a songwriter and also a publisher of those songs that the songwriter is writing. Another area is synchronization, and that's a sync license. Basically, that's if I put your music to live moving picture, live moving video, that's considered a synchronization. So that's another area. Another area is print. Let's say a band wants to get your music, they want to get the sheet music and they want to play it, or your lyrics may be placed in VIBEN magazine or something to that effect. And so that's an area called print. There's an area that's new media. I think new media is really now media because it's happening right now, but I think in the distant future, that term new media was something in the distant future. And so we're talking about things like ringtones, ringbacks, MySpace when MySpace was popular, YouTube, all of the ancillary areas where music is being discovered and heard is considered new media. There's another area that's called grand rights, G-R-A-N-D. So you write the music to Little Shop of Horrors, Jesus Christ Superstar, Wicked, etc. That's theatrical. So those contributing authors are also factored in and they're getting paid for those theatrical plays. So a high school, university, college wants to put that play on, they can't just put that on. They have to actually pay or secure those rights or license the right to be able to do that. There's another area, mechanicals. Mechanicals deal with the physical sale of the CD. Every time the CD is being sold, it generates a mechanical royalty. So that mechanical royalty is, it's getting paid. So when someone's downloading, the term mechanical really refers to a device. So the mechanical device, like a CD player, iPod player, or something to that effect, that is considered a mechanical device. And so another area, lastly, is derivatives, meaning derived from some pre-existing place. So if you sample a song, that's a derivative work. So you sample Earth, Wind and Fire, Metallica, whatever the case may be, those original contributing writers are still factored in the new body of work. And so that's just to give you an idea of the areas that music is being played or generating revenue. You're making money. So that's why at the end of the day, it's going to boil down to content and ownership. You hear the term content is king, and that is very true. It's basically who owns the content and who controls the content. So when you are an artist, you want to be in a position where you're controlling the content because that's how you make money. Unfortunately, I see the fundamental flaw with most people is they want to be famous. And so they're, in essence, they leverage themselves out of the business by not focusing on the business. There's a little word show and a big word business. And unfortunately, most people are trapped in show. I think about this when I think about music in particular. Music has a way in that it speaks to the conscience of people, right? And so when people are sad, they feel a certain way, they listen to a certain type of song. When they're happy, they listen to a certain type of song. I mean, I didn't like Mariah Carey until I got my heart broken. I'm like, oh God, she's singing those songs about me, every song, oh my. So music speaks to the conscience of people. But this is what I'd say, there's 3 words. There's a word that's moral, Moral deals with your values, right? The things that are of value, the things that you believe in, etc. And then there's an opposite of moral, and that opposite is immoral. And those are the things that are wrong. They're not accepted by society, whereas morals are social norms. Immorals are, things that are not accepted by society. But then there's a word that's neutral, and that word is amoral. So it's in between. It's not bad or good. It's just neutral. It's amoral. So, for example, the internet is amoral, right? What you put into it determines its morality. So if I am a college professor and I'm using the internet to research, then the internet is moral, right? But if I'm a criminal and I'm using the internet to steal your identity, then the internet is immoral. But in essence, the internet is amoral. It's neutral. It's not good. It's not bad. It's what you put into it that determines its morality. Music is amoral, right? It's not good. It's not bad. It's what you put into it that determines its morality. And so for you as an artist, I would challenge you to keep the morality in music and do something great and do something positive and something in particular that's greater than yourself. And so for me, every day I'm trying to do something greater than myself because it's not about you at this point. So know the impact of your music and use your music to do good and do great.
Well, that wraps the interview, Cappriccieo. Appreciate your time. Thank you for doing an interview with Cignature Productions.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Reporting district, division plus master B.
I remember, Michael Jackson, for example, someone who I had the pleasure of working with. You could never touch Michael. Like, it was always like...